you just say?
The denouement. That is the big finish.
Oh.
Well, see, I'm helping you along.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're recording. Start anytime. We're looking at you on the TV and on the computer screens.
Well, wonderful. Well, welcome. Good morning and shalom. I hope you guys have had a great Sukkot. And I think one more day. Does it end tomorrow?
Tomorrow is a high day.
Okay.
And it'll be the last day, yes.
Wow. Well, many blessings. And I've been listening to a lot of the teachings, and I think it's been great. So I am going to finish. I have a part 3 here on freedom from fundamentalism, a title I have, which is subtitled, Understanding the Divine Masculine and the Divine Feminine. What is the language in the Bible trying to tell us when it uses these words, male and female? So I am going to take a little bit of a different, this is a huge topic. This is nothing that can really be expounded in any great way in just these short teachings, because it is something that, you know, the sages, the prophet has spent their whole lifetime. This is a lifetime journey trying to get deep understanding of Torah. But as I say, it's the best journey in town. What else are we going to do with our time as we wait for our redemption to draw nigh? But I have been talking a little bit about the poetic language, the words male and female, what they really represent. We're not talking about gender down here. I'm not talking about my physical being a woman, or, you know, Jackson being a guy. And I'm not talking about feminine in the terms of like being a feminist or any of that kind of stuff. That's all lower level, you know, very tainted understanding, profane. What we're talking about here is what, and I want to screen share because I think this is kind of funny. This is one of my favorite images I find. Oh, wait a minute. I don't think that worked. Let me screen share. Did that come through?
Oh.
No. Okay, hold on a second. Let me try to do this right. Oh, I'm so sorry. Where am I going to find this?
Take your time.
I know. I'm not really good at this. This is way out of my comfort zone. Okay, let's see if I can do this. I do want to share this. Okay. This one. Okay. It goes, the Goyim no, shut it down. This is something that is now one of my presuppositions as I understand things. I think all of the knowledge has been held in the house of Judah. And it's our job as Ephraimites to go back with Yeshua now that we have a connection. Messiah.
Now, excuse me, but your screen share is not coming up like
it's not. Even though it says my screen share is paused, why would that be? All right. Now, do you see? No.
There, we've got something now.
No, that's not it. All right, forget it. I'm going to try it one more time.
Look at that.
All right, this is the last time. Now, do you see it? No, it says it's paused. No, forget it. All right, forget it.
You want to get out and back in?
No, I don't. I want to get out of this.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry. I'll get better at the tech stuff. We all will. So this is where I feel that we have to give, it's a guy, it's a rabbi, and he is, you know, Hasidic, and he's going, shut it down, the Goyim no. This is something that I think Judah has really held very tightly to their esoteric understanding. And for reasons that, who knows, they have felt that this is privileged knowledge that they have. And so it's been behooving us, as we understand that we are the other half of the coin. We are the second house of this thing, that this knowledge is ours also. And we have to go at it, in my opinion, with full confidence and full throttle, especially at the end of the age, and get up to speed with Judah. And it says in Hosea at some point that Judah will stop being jealous of us, and we will stop being antagonistic towards them. This is a goal. And a lot of this centers around the central core knowledge that we all can have, that all of the all Israel should have about Yahweh Elohim. So I want to stick today with the poetic. I've been talking about the poetic language. Now we're going to go into the physics of it, because I have a new kind of understanding that these are our patriarchs or the sages, prophets, the way they wrote the Torah, they were poetic physicists, if I can say such a thing, because they used the language in the most beautiful, cogent way, that painting these amazing pictures, but at the same time, they're telling a reality that is pure physics. And this is something that is really, as I get deep, I get deep into the mystical writings where all this deep esoteric sod level understanding is kept. And and this is why the Jews have remained at the top of the game in terms of world, I've said the Nobel Prize, I think it's like over 60% of Nobel Prize winners in the whole world have always been Jews. And that's not an accident, because they have so much knowledge, and that gives them like a head start on things, because I believe they have a correct worldview. So enough intro, I guess. One of the major archetypes of, you discover this in, is there's a systematic theology that the Jews have. I've talked about this, that they keep it in a system, very organized, called parts. But it centers around this concept of the tree of life. And the tree of life is, my understanding is, Hebrew is very concrete. In other words, they use very specific things in the natural that we can relate to express deep understandings. So in other words, the tree of life, why would they pick that archetype, that symbol, as trying to explain everything that we can know about Yahweh? There's a lot of stuff we can know. And one thing that came up in the last, I think the first session, is like, Jackson, you like to refer to me sometimes as a mystic. I don't know that because I think that has kind of a weird connotation to it. Mystic, just somebody who really is delving into what we can know about the supernal realms or the heavens. They're there. And the Torah is full of information. So in other words, the tree of life is a good symbol, because you have what is a concept of an oral Torah and a written Torah. I've been through this before. And the tree of life, in one sense, it's the written Torah, the tree in its outer sense, what we can see. It represents a root. There's a root system. There's a trunk. There are branches. There are leaves. There are fruit. There's all these manifestations of processes that we see. But what is making those things happen is this whole concept of what is hidden, the invisible, or the oratora, which inside you have all this whole system of the sap, the capillaries, the processes, the syntheses that are going on between the sunlight and the moisture. And it relates to this, the unseen parts of us, our soul, our mind, all these concepts, things that are happening to us. So it's a great analogy, because you can see a tree, it's huge, and it can represent every type of functionality that could possibly be going on. Seen and unseen, or today they would call it the subatomic world versus the seen world. So this is what they do. They're trying to give us information about the seen and the unseen realms using analogies we can relate to. And what they're doing is systematizing it, but it's very much about physics. So this is where I want to do a little bit today in talking about this. There's a new book I'm reading, my latest book, which is a really good one. For anybody, it's called Inner Space. Arya Kaplan was a great Taurus age. He's since presently died. He died kind of young, which is sad, because he was a great mind. But he has this, I want to read this little portion from this book to explain what I'm saying. Because a lot of my knowledge, that a lot of this is couched in what people term the Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism, which has nothing to do with what the world is doing with all the esoteric knowledge. There's a pure stream and there's an impure stream. Oh, that shouldn't be news to anybody. So it says the entire Zohar becomes an open book. The Zohar is the most redacted writings we have of this stream of information that has been preserved in the House of Judah. So for example, you could study the qualities of metals and see that silver is white, gold is yellow, copper is red, certain things are harder and others softer. Yet you will not understand the reasons for any of these things until you know atomic theory and solid state physics. Once you have learned these disciplines and you know exactly how light is reflected from certain atoms of copper. You understand why copper is red, and it all makes sense and becomes part of a system. The teachings could be called the atomic theory of the Zohar. Everything begins to make sense, and one can go deeper and deeper as far as the human mind can delve, and it will always yield new treasures. This is an understanding why they use a lot of, like metals, they use a lot of language, and most people just think it's poetic. It's like, gold is shiny, so that, but what we don't understand so much, and what we need to begin to understand, is there is real physics couched in these words. Now, we know a lot of the physics of the material realm, and that's why we can fly planes and do a lot of things today with great exactness. But what the modern secular mind, especially the Western modern secular and religious mind, has dished is any belief that these words can actually couch and teach us things about not only the physical world, but the supernal worlds. And so it's our problem. We're the ones that are confused, and we don't understand what's really in this language and these words. The ancients totally understood it, and they wrote like to the choir, like they all knew what they were talking about. I wanted to say Mark Heston did a great teaching. The teaching he did on the archetype of the temple and the mind, and it's no accident. And so I want to talk about how Yahweh has made a system that is completely linear, it's orderly, everything fits into everything else, it's a flow, it's an emanation, it works. And so they have always used, let's see, and these are big concepts, so I'm just going to throw out these concepts because there's no way to unpack them. But it talks in our text that there are 4 worlds. They have names for them, and they function in different levels, because what Mark was perceiving is that our consciousness, we go from being a body to being a soul to being a spiritual being. All of those processes are couched, enclosed in us, and work in us all at the same time. I mean, that's a pretty brilliant system to have going. That's why the atom, that's why we are a microcosm of the macrocosm of, Yahweh Elohim. We are a very small, we're made in his image. So the way the cosmos that he made functions is a sort of way that we function. So believing this, first of all, believing this, understanding this, and then using the understanding the words that they use to express these realities. Today we have, Freud and the whole world of psychology is giving us this information in a very secular way. The ancients used words like air, water, fire, and earth to express this same principle. So you have these 4 worlds. You have state, and that is akin to, like they call, states of matter. And there is physical matter, because this is a huge principle. There is always a seen part of this equation. There's always an unseen. You can see the trunk of the tree, but all the processes that are going outside, beneath, and it's just like our skin. So you see me, but I have a skin barrier, so you can't see what's going on inside. This archetypal principle just runs true for everything. So you have these 4 states of matter, but you have on the other side of this thing, these 10 sephirot, these 10 kind of ways in which Yahweh interfaces with his creation, and he does what he does on many levels. So it's a very interconnected, multi-level thing that is set up here. So part of my thing is because we need to stop apologizing for the Bible and pretending that it really is just a little bunch of allegorical stories that mean nothing. That is the lie of Hasatan, and that's why he makes us look like a fool in front of the world. But we need to turn the tables, and we can, once we really understand how deeply couched, how truth is so deeply couched inside these concepts. So you have, and the male and the female is the primary. It is like the starting point. And we said when he made man in his image and likeness, image refers to the right side. The male likeness refers to the female. It's very systematic. So you have this male and female, which we know now in the highest understanding, it's relating to our mind. And this is what Mark brought out. The way our mind is set up with a right brain and a left brain, and then a middle pillar, and the part of the brain in the middle, and that goes down into the spinal cord, that is totally deliberately done. And that is how he has separated, yet made processes to combine and to use this left hemisphere and this right hemisphere to do things. So in other words, so let's just take this concept for the male and the female, which is really, it's a concept of similarity, but opposites. It's couched in words like Bina, which is the female, which is understanding. You've got Hokmah, which is the male, and it relates to the tetragrammaton. You've got the Yod, Yod, Hey is Bina, Yod is Hokmah, and this is the highest level. This is where, in the mind of Elohim, this is where everything starts. It's going in. So he has made these quote unquote opposites. He has made them male and female. The Chinese, this is ancient knowledge, the yin and the yang. You're talking about the same thing. It's a concept of thesis and antithesis. It's and it's all about relationship. So a lot of times you have the whole poetic world of relationship. You've got the male and the mother and the daughter, the father and the son, and all the different relationships, because we can kind of understand relationship because we have them. And this is all predicated on the fact, of course, that Yahweh has no sex, gender. He has no form, he's spirit, but we want to relate to him. He said it, we have a desire. So this is one way they do it. So you have in the physics of it, you have light. He made light and he made energy. These are waves and these are emanations. These are huge primordial forces that filter down and fill everything. There is nothing that doesn't have his light, but some of it is so now at this point in physicality, diffused and hidden in a sense, so many layers on top of it that, but the principle, we're talking of this principle is the same. Now, so you have to have, understand the 10 separate, the 4 worlds, the 4 states of matter. You have in the supernal realms, if you're talking about the invisible realm, so to speak, you're more into air, water, fire, and earth. But they know today, this is what science, it relates to the 4 states of matter in physicality. You've got gases, liquids, plasma, which is fire, and solids. So this is all, this is why Philo, a lot of the writings, and I'll even give you a quote because I want to do this from, this is from the Clementine Homilies on the works of creation. And it says here, he alone, Yahweh, alone turned the 4 contrary elements into one, into the one first simple substance. Thus combining them, he made of them myriads of compounds, so that being turned into opposite natures and mingled, they might affect the pleasure of life in the combination of contrary things. What I want you to tell, they knew what they were talking about, and they were talking about just what I said, and they were talking about what modern science is telling us. See, we have to believe that we have to, and this is my thing, I feel like I kind of do this alone a lot, but there's a lot of comments, and even we need to get, in my opinion, to this level. We need to crack this code, learn this language, and speak it to the world, because again, when the 2 houses are reunited and when we come in, we're going to be able to tell the world, yeah, we told you so. The world, so much of our information has been hijacked and profaned, and Yahweh does not get the glory for it. And it just personally really irritates me. But anyways, so as we come into this, understand, we'll just stick with, and this is the one middle pillar, and so we have a right brain, a left brain in the middle. What I have to say about the middle is this is an area of where they have really couched, let's see, this number. All right, so there are 3 how do I say this? There are three, you know how there's three pillars. There's a right pillar, a left pillar, and there's a middle pillar. Well, it talks about, and Enoch speaks of this, it's been about 3 books. You know, he created the world with 3 books. And you think books is a bad, that's a bad word, because what it's really explaining and text telling us is that he made the world with number, with alphabet, and with speech. And this is so important to understand, because again, in the poetic language, you got to understand, and this is why the Gemara, in every letter is a number, and number, and this is what I said, and I gave a quote from Philo in the very first video I did, like, well, why did God, Yahweh didn't need 6 days to make the earth. He's all powerful. He could have just boom, he could have spoken the whole thing, but he needed to make it according to arrangement and sequence. And this is where our ancients went, and this will help us crack the code, so to speak, when we look at all these ancient, like hieroglyphics and a lot of the symbols that these people are using, and you look at, what are they talking about? What are they trying to express here? Now people we're beginning to crack this code. Like even as Mark brought up, and this is known by a lot of people, the eye of Horus. The eye is a symbol of the thymus, is a symbol of, it has a meaning. It has a very precise scientific, because it's in our brain template, and understanding. And so these people had this understanding. And now we have to get it back. And to get out of Babel, the other thing is we need to all start speaking the same language. So if I talk about the eye of Horus, if I use it, the thymus in the brain, or if I use it in a psychological term, or the gate of God, the gate of Elohim, we all know what we're talking about. We're no longer like looking at each other like we're all talking about something different. We are all talking about the same basic archetypal principle or theology. So, but when you get into the supernal world, it's not about physicality anymore. It's about energy, and it's about wavelengths. It's about vibration. It's about short waves and long waves, and it's about static and movement. There's so many things going on. And science will give us words for that, but the text gives us these words for this. So they use a set of numbers. They use math. It's because, let me put it this way, the middle pillar, why it's considered to be harmonizing the left side and the right side. And again, let me say one more thing about male, female, left and right. That's what I'm talking about, all this. It's a binary system, but the right side of the brain, let's just say, the male side is the intuitive, can look at subject, likes to study. It's very holistic. It's intuitive. It's more concerned about the whole per se, and how the whole relates and interfaces, versus the left side of the brain, which is very logical, very sequential, very objective, and is looking at the part. So one is kind of going linear, and the other is going toward a circle. Well, this is a whole concept. You get into the circle and the square. So, sometimes the sages, they crack me, because there's like nothing they haven't thought through. And okay, so let me stay with this. So you have a left brain and right, but you have the middle. You have this world of arrangement, of pattern, of number, because it's like, I think, because Yahweh is combining different states of being, and he's got to kind of fit them and make room for them. I mean, seriously, how do you get a round circle in a square hole? Well, you can do it. There's a way to do it. So everything, it's so weird. I don't even know if I'm explaining this, because it's very theoretical, but you can put dissimilar, there's combinations of things together, but you have to have it right. You have to have openings and slits. That's what math is about. Geometry. How do you get circle? So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of what I hope you can follow that, what I'm trying to say. So you have this whole world of number and arrangement. And this is why in our text, we're constantly finding out the groupings, like why 3s are so important grouped together, why 5s are so important, why 7s are so important. Why the sages will say that with 10 is a perfect number, and he created the world with 10 Sephiroth, and he'll say 9, not 9 Sephiroth and not 11 Sephiroth. Well, why 10? Okay, so these things are all very important, but they're very linear, and they have can go from one precept to another precept, and you can. Okay, so let me go back to, so in the threes, when I say the right pillar, the middle pillar, and the left brain, our right brain, our left brain, the middle part of our brain, this is a synthesizer. It's like the computer program that takes the information both sides, puts it together, and makes a coherent thought about it. It fits. But it also says they use speech and they use text. So there's three quote unquote books. There's three things that Yahweh is doing all at the same time to make it something holistic. It's using text, it's using letters, it's using an arrangement of that. It's using speech, which is gets akin to sound to the body. So in other words, in this, it gets in akin, the same thing they're saying, of light and sound, coming together, combining, and making a synthesis. So I get lost in all this. So I hope what I'm trying to say is the language is so precise and giving us absolute legs to stand on when it comes especially to the supernal worlds. And this is why in the language in the text, they're constantly using the concept of air, water, earth, and fire. And they know exactly, and like I said, these are 4 states of matter that is visible or invisible. Now, and then this is akin to, let's say, the 5 levels of the soul and the 5 dimensions. So we are, like when to uncode, like I believe that Paul is amazing. Paul has totally his background of being a Pharisee coming into all the Essene understandings. He has a full package understanding, in my opinion. But when he would write a very benign statement or verse like 1 Thessalonians 5:23, and he would pray that your whole body, soul, and spirit be preserved blameless unto the coming of Adonai. Well, it's a very nice, but when you unpack this with some of this understanding, it is so deep and beautiful, and it makes the rest of the Torah, everything that makes sense. So your body, as we know, is our sense consciousness. The body represents a level of the soul life. I've been through this a little bit. The nephesh soul life, which is attached to a ruach, which is our animating, our life force, our principle that makes our body just even move. It's the animation. But when they use words like clay, so Adam was made of the dust or clay, what they're really saying, his body parts, the physicality of him, is made out of the 4 basic, the elements. So our body is got water in it, it's got materiality in it, it's the 5 states. We have a whole system that breathes. We have fire is akin to plasma, but fire is our whole emotional apparatus. So there's a lot in the 5, the sense consciousness. There's a lot in body that's just, so that's why I said, if you just stick with the Peshat level meaning, he's got a body, but you're missing all the gold that's in these understandings. So anyways, he wants to preserve our body blameless, right? You got to be the master of your body parts and what it does. Your soul, your self-consciousness, this is the world of the astral planes. This is the world of the mind and of the heart. So he says, to love Yahweh, your Elohim, with all of your heart. This is an element. This is where our intellect is housed. This is where our emotions are housed. This is where our will is housed. This is where our whole soul life is. It's a whole one of the 4 dimensions. It's called the world of Yetzirah, and it's the world of formation, when he formed and created us. They're so specific about all this. So this has to be preserved. And a lot of times what we're doing, or what people do, is we're trying to cleanse all the programs in us, all the memories, all the emotions, all of the trauma we've had, all of the wrong programming we've had. Cleaning your soul or making your soul holy is a full-time job. That's where, in my opinion, where the works are. Yeah, you got to do works. It takes a lot of work to clean out your soul. Oh my gosh. And then you throw into it all the generational DNA that we have, the thing passed down by our ancestors, all the environmental stuff. I mean, it's a big job. Then you have what he calls your spirit, which is, for us, we have now spirit. We have a neshama soul. We have a connection. We have made the connection to our Father, to our Abba, and Abba, to our Heavenly Mother and our Heavenly Father. In other words, that's the and that is in the category of breath when they talk about the breath of Elohim. It's a very high level program that actually will put you in touch with the divine, with the super, where you can know our Father on his terms, in his essence and likeness. So this is where these words are used. And so to get, this concept of freedom from fundamentalism, everybody has a left brain and a right brain. Everybody has a middle pillar, and we're all involved in the same works of salvation. We all got to work out our salvation with fear and trembling, and we all need to integrate ourselves. That's individually. And then the greater thing that's going on all around us, and this gets into a lot of, again, the metaphysical language that is used for all Israel. And believe it or not, literally, this is the point, we are getting meshed together in a body, so an Elohim that is literally interconnected, and as on many levels, our souls, our relationships on all these levels is being rewired together, which will become, all Israel, which will become, like, again, is the new heaven and the new earth. It's a new, he's rewiring the whole system that got really messed up in the fall and got some major computer, quote unquote, glitches or viruses in it. So that's that's a bigger part of the story. So we're kind of going up. We're going from little individual, cells. We're being put together in a body. And there's a lot of theology of this. And this is, in our Torah, they use a lot of language because, again, one other thing, let me make 2 more points. How am I doing on time? In this language of the male and the female, the binary system with the middle pillar, and what's going on in 3 different levels, all at the same time, our body, soul, and spirit is constantly working in all of these different dimensions, all of the time, using speech, using alphabet text, and using number. These things you don't even, I'm probably starting to go on a little rabbit trail, how number in our body is so, we don't even think on that level, but we really, that's another whole world out there that you can. So, but coming back to this. So as we are ascending, so to speak, corporately as a body of people, let's just say even the 2 houses coming together, getting an understanding of who we are, the bigger picture, what's going on, where we are on the prophetic timeline, then the next level is, and this is the promise in the word of Elohim, is that we will at some point, there's a tipping point, where we will be, quote unquote, in the sense, leveled up. The righteous will receive a final, hand coming down from the, and lifting us up finally forever into a supernal realm where we have kind of left these lower states of being, and we really can function with great freedom, with great victory, just great freedom. You're not dogged anymore by the evil inclination. I mean, this is a place, this concept, this has a lot to do with, quote unquote, the study of the last days. This has a lot to do with eschatology. This has a lot to do with understanding how, what is it, what's up with this end of the 6th millennium into the 7th millennium? And again, we can't make up what we think this means. We have to, again, go back to the Hebraic understanding in the house of Judah. And then you got to go back and you got to understand it's on 2 levels because you got 2 houses. And 90% of the time, the Jews, I love Judah. I'm like, oh my gosh. But we know, and we're not, but they do not see Messiah ben Joseph as a big deal, basically. Their promises, their birthright, their whole persona, they're about Messiah ben David. And, but as we raise our level of consciousness, raise our ability to dialogue at the complete and total big picture level, I think this is the next phase that we're coming into where you know, we can sit down with Yuta and we can, and I think a lot of this thing happens in a prophetic sense, where it's not so much a leisurely thing where we're going to be forced to. I mean, there's one thing, when you have kids, there's a point in time where, you know, the dialogue just ends and you just say, hey, do it because I'm the daddy or the mommy, that, you know, this is what we're doing now. So there's so many levels of interaction, of, you know, the plan of Yahweh on so many different levels. He's working with us individually. He's working with us corporately. He is working with us within our family, our tribe, our nation, our place in the Olam Haba. We are actually working out our salvation in terms of our place in the world to come. And he is the whole flip side, which I've never even talked about, and is he is working with us to defeat Satan at his own game, and using this, you know, and I haven't touched on the whole concept, which is deep in these of where evil comes from, what its place is, how it gets eliminated or defeated, and how it functions in side by side in the different dimensions in the different worlds, which is all in the text. It's all deeply coded. All this understanding is in the text. I guess what I was kind of really wanting to focus on was the physics of it, that what we can know about our world, there's nothing in that Judah hasn't had an understanding of. And part of my thing is Judah has, they have really been all about the law in terms of, because they've had to preserve themselves as an identifiable body of people on the planet, on a mission, and much of it in a state where they're not totally taken over by the other side. We all know there's varying degrees of all this, so that they can be a witness in the world. But a lot of this understanding, like I said, they have had, and and this is all part of how Yahweh, we know that it's imperfect to a certain extent, because there's huge pockets of the puzzle that it's still in blindness about or in denial about. But we have huge pockets that we're still in blindness about and in denial about. And as both parties begin to understand that, you know, yeah, Yeshua is Torah, he is the manifestation, but at the same time, they need to understand that, yeah, Yeshua is Torah and Torah is Yeshua. There's a, like, we're both kind of climbing this pyramid back to the same point. But going back to some of the physics. So this is why in the ancients, you'll have this concept of pi being so important. You will have the flower of life, the fruit of life, in the tree of life. They have an understanding of there's a whole world. If you've ever done any of these math things where you start with the seed, you go into the fruit, then the flower, they have a beautiful, ancients have had beautiful ways of explaining the progression of number, pattern, and arrangement. Part of my thing is we need to stop being afraid of examining and understanding, because this is my thing. The New Agers, they use this stuff, they've gotten up to speed on it, but they just don't get any credit or don't connect it back up to the high element, to God. We need to get back into this stuff. We need to learn this language and understand what they're expressing and compare it to modern science. And again, it's always a matter of bringing things into the light, cleaning them up, getting rid of the darkness, making it shine again, so to speak. And I believe this is something that we can really excel at, especially as Ephraimites. But we have to get back into, again, more the things that we need, classical ways of learning, having respect for theology, having understandings of philosophy, understanding Hebrew. There's a lot of tools and things that we need to get up to speed. Learning these languages and these keys to the kingdom and these codes, and all at the same time, mentally, keeping ourselves pure and unspotted from the world, and working out our salvation, and bringing, again, back into the poeticness of Elohim, his love, his mercy, his justice into the world. So it's very busy, very busy. A lot going on. So on that note, I just wanted to, and if you have any questions, we have time for little questions and answers. But basically, I said, freedom from fundamentalism is we're going to get our brains, the more we level up, the better off it is for everybody.
Excellent, excellent. And what I'm going to talk about at 2 o'clock this is a perfect segue into that. And I appreciate that. That'll save me some time. And we need to know more. There's more and more people are understanding if I can use the term, Godhead, as being a gendered being. Now, whether we can believe that or not, we still need to learn about it. And many in this group do believe it, especially the one that just walked in here. We ought to talk about it sometime. But thank you, Liz. It was great, and we appreciate you being part of our Sukkot.
Okay.
Hallelujah.